Hey Siri, turn on all the lights.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Joe Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing a couple different smart plugs I've been using from TP-Link. Smart plugs offer the promise of making life easier by being able to control lights, fans, and other devices from your phone. They want to make dumb devices smart, but do they? I'll cover what my experience has been like using smart plugs for the last few months, and share what I've come to like and dislike about them. First, let's go over the unboxing and setup briefly, as there isn't much to either step. Inside both boxes are the plugs themselves. There are some barcodes you can scan to help in the setup process, and that's pretty much it. As I mentioned, both plugs are from TP-Link, but each one is from a different sub-brand, one being from Kasa and the other one from Tapo. Not sure why they have different sub-brands that sell basically the same plug, but that's what these plugs are. The Tapo plug is Matter compatible, meaning it will work with essentially any smart home app that's agreed to that standard. Most of the major smart home apps have agreed to be Matter compatible. It's now just a matter of time, no pun intended, in waiting for companies to release more of these Matter compatible devices. I prefer using Apple's Home app and try to get most of my smart devices compatible with that app. The Kasa smart plug is not Matter compatible, but it still works with Apple Home, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, and Samsung SmartThings. Kasa calls it smart plug slim, while Tapo calls this plug mini. Both plugs are quite small, but the Tapo plug is a bit smaller. The Kasa plug sticks out about a 1/4 inch more than the Tapo plug and is a bit wider as well. Setup for both is nearly identical. To get started, download the Kasa app or Tapo app, depending on which plug you're setting up. Then you go into the app and select the device you want to add. Next, you plug in the smart plug. Both have a button on the side that lights up. When it's ready for pairing, it flashes orange and blue. Then you begin the pairing process and add the plug to your home network. After that, I set it up in Apple Home. I just scanned the small barcode on the plugs, and it took a couple minutes to add it to my Apple Home system. Next, Apple gives you 3 choices on how the outlet will appear. You can choose fan, light, or outlet. When I first set this up, I chose to label them as outlets, but quickly realized my mistake. Since I mostly use these outlets for lights, I should have chosen that. So what happened then is when I'd ask Siri to turn on or off a light, she wouldn't recognize that light. I'd have to ask her to turn on the outlet, and then it'd work. I changed how the plugs were identified from outlets to lights after that. It just didn't feel natural asking Siri to turn on an outlet when you wanted to turn on a light. After that, I gave the outlet a name in the Kasa and Tapo apps, and then setup is complete. Overall, the setup is simple and took about 5 minutes per smart plug. I did run into an issue a few weeks after setting up one of the Kasa plugs. It had an orange status light instead of its usual blue light. I'd go to my Apple Home app, and it was stating that the plug couldn't be found. I had to reset the plug, which is done by holding the power button on the side for 10 seconds. I reset it, and I tried adding it back to Apple Home, but it would fail every time. I found out later that I had to reset the plug and then restart my phone as well. After I did that, I was able to get it back online. I'm not sure what caused the plug to quit working. I did have a whole home power outage around the time that the plug quit, so that could have been the cause. So if you're new to smart plugs, I'll just briefly explain how they work. Whatever your device is that you want to control, you turn that device on first. So for example, if you have a light you want to control, you'd make sure to turn that light on and then plug it into your smart plug. Then when you want to turn the device off, you use your smartphone or smart assistant to do that. If you have a light and use the switch on the light to turn it off, you'd have to turn that switch back on before being able to use your phone to control it again. Otherwise, if you turn your light off by the switch on the light and you go to turn it on from your phone, all you'll do is turn the smart plug on or off, but it won't turn on the light. So essentially all a smart plug does is either allow or stop power running to the device. This may seem obvious to some people, but I think it's important to reiterate this point. If you're used to turning your lamp off by hand, you'll need to turn it back on by hand in order to control it from your phone. Right now, I'm using 5 smart plugs in my home. 4 of them I use for lights, and 1 is for a fan in my bedroom. Using the plugs for my lights has been a great upgrade for the house. To turn them on, I'll either just tell Siri to turn on the lights, or I'll swipe down the control center on my iPhone to choose the lights I want on. I was concerned there would be a delay from turning them on with my phone to the lights actually turning on, but the process is near instantaneous. It's nearly as quick as hitting a light switch and having the lights go on or off. There's also a click noise that comes from the plugs when turning them on or off. Having that click is nice. If I'm in another room, I can tell by the sound the plug turned on or off. Also, sometimes I turn on and off the plugs with my Apple Watch, if there's times I don't have my phone on me. They still work just as quickly with the watch as they do with the phone. While the plugs for the lights have been great, the plug for my fan is pretty much useless. I can't blame this on the plug itself. I use a Dyson tower fan and it has a safety feature where if the power goes out to the fan, it won't turn back on when the power is restored. Basically, I can turn off the fan through the smart plug, but in order to turn it back on, I'd have to power on the plug and also power on the fan. This scenario is probably rare, but thought I'd mention it just in case you have a similar setup. I kept the Kasa smart plug on this fan for a few weeks. I'll cover the reason why in a little bit. One great feature that smart plugs have unlocked for me is more automations. I can set up lights to turn on at certain times, for example at sunset, or in my case, I set up my bedroom lamps to turn on 15 minutes before sunset. I like that you can also set up lights or any other device to turn off when a certain person leaves the house or when the last person leaves the house. These are just a couple examples of some automations that can be set up. There are many more. Another one that I haven't used, but some people might find useful, is if you have a sensor, or as in my case, a smart thermostat with a built-in sensor, you can set up certain lights to turn on when it senses movement. I mentioned before, I still use the Kasa smart plug on my bedroom fan, even though all I can do is turn it off. The Kasa plugs have a feature where you can see energy consumption of the device using it. The Tapo plug allows you to track how many hours a plug has been on, but not the kilowatt hours. Now, while this feature sounds great, it hasn't worked consistently in the few months I've been using it. There's times where it doesn't show any history for energy consumption, and then at other times it will. Sometimes the history shows way less usage than what was actually used. The plug does show current energy consumption of the device using it, which is nice to see. I reached out to Kasa about it not showing energy history. I basically received an email back about some troubleshooting steps to take, such as resetting the plug. As this problem isn't limited to one Kasa plug, but affects all 4 that I own, I'll probably have to do more work on this to see if I can get the energy monitoring to display properly. Overall, these smart plugs by TP-Link have been a great addition to my home. They're simple to set up, easy to use, and have a ton of great features that will provide loads of convenience to most people. I've had more problems with the Kasa plug over the Tapo. Due to the energy reporting issues I've had with Kasa, I can only recommend the Tapo plug. I like its small size and it's worked consistently for me since day one. Also for the price, which runs anywhere from $10 to $15 a plug, they're a cost-effective way to turn any regular device into a smart device. Now that's it for my review on these couple of smart plugs. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, please subscribe and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next review.